Okay, gents, massive game coming up at Villa Park. Aston Villa against Manchester City. This is a heck of a game. This could be one of the games of the season when we look at it on paper. Unai Emery against Pep Guardiola. We got Villa, 13 straight wins at home in the Premier League. That proud record for them. Clash of styles, of course, the way they play. But Nick, what are you expecting from this game? Because Villa, they're up there in the table, and I think everyone keeps saying, "Oh, they'll drop," but if they get a win here against Man City, then I feel like we have to start having a different discussion about Aston Villa this season.
We sure do, because they'll be a team if they're able to pull this off, even with City and a little bit of a dip in form, 3 straight draws. By the way, against 3 very big name teams, it'll have told us something about their intent, about their confidence, about the anger after a disappointing result at the weekend. And I just wonder if Villa's there already. It takes time to buy into that, to the expectations you have of yourselves. In this game, I'm almost looking for it to tell me something about Villa as much as I am to learn anything about their expectations. I want to know where that project's at, because I think they might be a bit further along than we even really appreciate by their spot on the table right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're in the top 4, Andy, going into this week. They're right up there at the top of the league. I watched their game, their draw away at Bournemouth. Ollie Watkins got a great late header to snatch a point for them. And it was a snatch point. They had chances of their own, but they gave up a lot of chances as well. And I think Unai Emery kind of said that. They knew it was going to be a tough game because of, again, Europa Conference League in midweek. They've got a few injuries now building up. The strength and depth isn't quite there, but it is still very good as well. But I think some of the issues I have with Villa is maybe the balance a little bit. Even in their recent win against Spurs, they gave up a heck of a lot of really big chances. And Man City are probably going to score those and punish you, right? So they have to get a little bit more pragmatic, but then they don't want to take away that attacking flair they have with Watkins, McGinn, Bailey, and Diaby, and so many other great players there. So how do they do that? Because again, the carrot dangling is, if they win against Man City this midweek, they actually jump above them in the Premier League table, which is kind of crazy to say.
Yeah, we're not 3 weeks into the season anymore. This is a fairly sizable, sample size that we've got here. It is interesting with Villa because I kind of like the point that I think Nick made, just in terms of being ahead of schedule a little bit. It's very clear that they had a series of wrong managers and quite a talented squad. And so you bring in someone, and we're seeing the same thing, I think, with Tottenham. We talked about Ange quite a bit this week. Like, sure, there were some players that were brought in this summer, and they've been key contributors. But there are holdover players that have massively raised their level and are performing very, very critical and pivotal roles in that team for Unai Emery. And I'll also say this on... They've been fairly healthy this season. They had a couple injuries at the very beginning of the season with Buendia and Mings, and they're going to miss probably the entire season. But aside from that, it's been pretty much the same kind of 12, 13, maybe 14 players that have rotated into that starting lineup. And so they've benefited a little bit from that. But what that does, that breeds continuity and understanding of how to play together. And I think that's why, even though they've lost to Newcastle this year, they've lost to Liverpool as well. They got wins over Chelsea and Tottenham. It's why they've been able to hold their own in some of those games against the bigger sides. This is the weeks that we say, okay, this is where they're finally going to slip up. This is where it's going to all come apart. And it just doesn't. They're a smart team. They defend well. They work hard. That's, I think, with as much talent as they have, the fact that they work as hard as they do, defensively without the ball, and then to set up those transitional moments, it operates exactly as Unai Emery wants it to. And so they will give City problems. We saw that with Spurs on the counter just a little bit. That's where they found some joy. So again, this is another fantastic matchup that we've got here.
No, it really is. And I think if you look at 12 months into the job that Unai Emery has done, it's right up there. It's incredible with the, good resources that they have and the good players and the good squad he has, but they are massively overachieving Aston Villa, and they're on a roll and they have momentum. Nick, Man City don't really have momentum, I guess. They have played well in these 3 straight draws against very, very good teams, as you mentioned. But the same kind of issues keep cropping up, right? It's about balance. It's about defensive mistakes and coughing up late goals. And we don't really see this from Man City under Pep Guardiola. And I'm sat there wondering, yes, he's a great attacking player, but Kevin De Bruyne, having him out for these big game moments against big teams, someone like him with his experience and quality on the ball, just to get on it and say, calm down, let's get some control, I'll spray it around, I'll pop up in the right areas, and just to kind of almost, he rallies the guys around him, doesn't he? You often see him getting quite angry in these situations. They lose control. But that balance and defensive issues has been a big issue for City and why they've drawn these 3 games in a row. So how do they change that, or can they change it?
Yeah, missing KDB is massive. I mean, even at 32 years old, one of the best players in the world, in January, the expectation of him coming back will be massive. And I feel like maybe he has been that calming influence late in the games. If you look at the numbers, Man City is still a force in the first half hour. They are scary to play against. They almost always come out hungry. They're the ones who adjust. And then in the beginning of the second half, they adjust. But that last half hour of games, and I'm not just talking about the goal concessions, and sometimes they're playing with a big lead. They don't have that one guy. They have that guy with Rodri who can calm things down. They have a bunch of guys who can maybe calm things down in the sense of, hey, we've been here before. But Kevin De Bruyne is both. The guy who can take it by the scruff of the neck and the guy who can calm things down. And when that guy, they just don't grow on trees, right? How many players have we seen over the years in those sort of positions? Lampards, Gerrards, those sort of guys, again, just to say it perfectly, they don't grow on trees. And I think he is the difference between them salting away games and them sweating it out a little bit more.
No, it's been huge to see the impact that, obviously we knew it was going to be big, his injury, but I feel like we've kind of seen it the last few weeks, and we knew it hit them at some point, and that's really come to the fore with this lack of control. And again, I think it's more so, City are always going to go for the win under Pep Guardiola. They're not going to settle for a draw, are they, in those kind of tight situations? But usually they would be a couple of goals up, and they're not quite finding themselves. And it's crazy to say, but they haven't quite clicked yet this season. I still feel like the odd game, the odd parts of games, but not been as consistent. And now, guys, one more stat I want to chuck at you. The only team to win more games in the Premier League in the calendar year 2023 than Aston Villa is Man City. So that is pretty crazy to think the amount of wins that Villa have going in. 22 wins in 2023 under Unai Emery, and City have 26. But that's still pretty incredible to be right up there with City in that kind of record. Andy Edwards, score prediction from you, my friend, for this one?
2-1 City. I wanted to go with Villa. They're at home, but I do think at some point during this period where the fixtures are going to get really, really congested, they're going to drop some points at some point with that squad and just the lack of rotation that they've been able to do, and I think probably will continue to be unable to do at least until January.
Nick?
Same number, 2-1 to Man City. I just think this is a little bit of overdue. It's almost like you don't go 4 games. I think it was 2017, the last time they went 3 Premier League games without a win, I heard on the broadcast. I'm not betting on it getting to 4.
I really want to go for a draw. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go 2-2. I think another game where City will struggle for a bit of control. I think you can't underestimate the power of Villa Park and Villa being so good there for a long, long time now. I think that City have been giving up big opportunities, and Villa are the kind of team you don't want to be giving that to, given the likes of Watkins, McKean, and others, the kind of form they're in. I think they're going to punish them. So let's see what happens. Head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest on Aston Villa against Man City, how to watch, team news, preview, live analysis, and video highlights. We'll have you covered for a massive game right at the top of the Premier League table. Aston Villa against Man City. Should be a great one.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.